Good morning, Chicago. What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast, your UK take on all things Chicago Bears. We're going to reflect on what was a shock announcement from the Bears, a roster move. There's been a couple of roster moves, actually, by the Bears in the last sort of day or so, and one of them that I'm absolutely completely not shocked at, to be perfectly honest with you, and it surrounds a guy who was reportedly ready to come back this season, ready to play this season, a guy who, when he was drafted in the 5th round of last year's draft, was a guy Al Harris was really high on, a guy Al Harris I think had big hopes for, and I think something quite clearly has gone on here that we are unaware of for this to happen. Now, the Bears have announced that they have waived released 5th round pick Zar Frazier. Now, Zar Frazier, who announced back in January that he had been medically cleared to play, has never played a snap for the Chicago Bears, has never actually played a minute of competitive football in the NFL, and has now been released by the Bears. Now, we know that he missed all of last season due to personal issues. We don't know what they are. Like I said, I've said on the previous videos, we don't really need to know what they are. But this announcement that he is being cut is a bit of a shock. It is a little bit of a shock. I mean, I honestly thought that this was a guy who was going to come back, who was going to participate, who was going to play a big part for the Bears this season on special teams, and I think a bit part as well coming into the secondary, especially obviously given the concerns around Tyreek Stevenson, obviously given the hopes and the injury history that we've got certainly at the cornerback position. The fact that Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson both have significant injury histories and miss a number of games, and having someone like Zar Frazier available would be beneficial. But he's gone. He's been waived. Now, look, like I said, no official announcement as yet from the Bears as to why Zar Frazier has been cut or has been released yet. When I read this news this morning when I got up, I was actually taken aback by it. Genuinely taken aback by it. I didn't really expect it at all. I really did think that he would be playing a part this season. Now, all of this leaves the Bears' secondary room looking a little bit like this. Now, obviously, Jalen Johnson is our CB1, our top guy. Kyler Gordon, obviously, in there as well. Very highly thought of, his old Kyler Gordon. Tyreek Stevenson is really, on paper, your CB2, although there has been talk of Kyler playing out a bit of outside corner this season. Josh Blackwell, more a special teams kind of guy. Dallas Flowers, I don't think will play much of a part. Jalen Jones, again, more of a special teams kind of guy. Terrell Smith, who, split a lot when he was fit, split a lot of reps with Tyreek Stevenson. But, he is still obviously coming back from injury, and there's obviously, a lot of doubts around what Terrell Smith can bring to the party. So, it is a little bit of a concern there. Now, we obviously as well have Malik Muhammad, who many people are projecting, is Malik Muhammad is hopefully going to have a big part to play for the Bears. Malik Muhammad is a very highly thought of guy. Now we'll touch a bit on Malik Muhammad, but look, whatever is going on with Zar Frazier, and I can't help but feel that this is perhaps something bigger than football, that there is something else going on in this guy's life, whether it's personal, family, no matter what. I think there is definitely something happening here. It could be mental health, it could be a family problem, it could be a health issue. I don't know what it is, but I hope he's okay. I hope that whatever happens, that he goes on to have a successful career somewhere. Look, it hasn't worked out at the Bears, but I do wish Zar all the very best. But getting back to this, you've got to look at this, and number one, obviously, you now look at this, and with Zar Frazier going, look, we didn't know what we were getting in Zar Frazier. So to put all our eggs in one basket and think that Zar was going to be the guy who's going to come in and be a big part of the cornerback room, I think is dangerous, because, we didn't know what sort of player he was. He could have come in, played, and absolutely stank the joint out. Malik Muhammad, I think, is now, really, for me, coming in and being, for me, someone who is going to have to play a big part this season. Tyreek Stevenson is a player who has a checkered past. He is capable of playing exceptionally well. Do not get me wrong. Tyreek Stevenson is capable of doing some very good things, but he is also capable of being an absolute knucklehead at times and making some absolute knuckleheaded plays. I also think as well, with Tyreek going into a contract year, there is within the organisation, I don't think a strong feeling towards Tyreek. So I think, that kind of sort of explains the Malik Mohammed draft. Now, Malik Mohammed was obviously a 4th round pick, 124 overall for the Bears, but many people even had him at the end of the 2nd round or even an early 3rd round guy. So this is a guy who I think can have a pretty big future for the Bears. He comes out of college with 41 total games played at college level, 76 solo tackles, 21 assisted, 97 combined, 3.5 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 3 interceptions, 16 passes defensed across his 3 years in college. He's a good guy in terms of getting those things and getting up there in there. He ran a 4.42 40, so he's certainly no slouch. He's a quick guy, and he's a guy, like I said, who has proved in the past that he does like to get up and physical in people's faces. So, look, Malik Mohammed, I think, especially with this news, and obviously given the injury history, given the injury history that Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon have had, there is obviously, I think a need for obviously Malik Mohammed to really step it up this season and really put it out there and be one of the main guys in that cornerback room. Guys, again, apologies, my dog's drinking yet again, as he always does somehow during whenever I decide to make a video. He seems to wait and then do it. He wants to appear in the video. Other news around the Chicago Bears, Garrett Bradbury and the Bears have reportedly agreed a rework on a contract that gives him more guaranteed money for 2026, which seems very, very odd. With trade speculation swirling around him now, there's with the fact the Bears have drafted Logan Jones, and a lot of people are saying that Logan Jones is going to be the guy this season, that Logan Jones will beat out Garrett Bradbury, that Logan Jones will become the starting centre this season. Now, that has meant that even though we traded for Garrett Bradbury, there has been some people saying that we may well trade away Garrett Bradbury now that we have got Logan Jones and that Luke Newman will be the backup centre. I mean, big risk to take, obviously, with a rookie. Now, according to Spotrac's Michael Ganiti, he has seen there's been a contract rework which sees $1 million in incentives turned into guaranteed money. This means that Bradbury is now owed $4.7 million with $3.7 million dollars guaranteed. Garrett Bradbury has this is what Ganiti said. He said Garrett Bradbury signed a renegotiated contract with the Bears that converted $1 million of the incentives into guaranteed salary. The 30-year-old is now due $4.7 million in 2026 with $3.7 million guaranteed. Now, Bradbury was the pickup when we obviously Drew Dahlman, shock, retired. We didn't expect that. Bears went out and got Bradbury. Bradbury was cheaper, obviously, than Tyler Beardash and Tyler Linderbaum. He's come in now. What's made things, I think, really interesting for the Bears going forward is, we took Logan Jones in the 2nd round, a lot earlier than I think a lot of people slated Logan Jones going. And a lot of people had him down as a 3rd round guy. Now, you tend to find that when a guy goes high 2nd, like Logan Jones, then is a possibility that maybe, just maybe, that is saying that Logan Jones is going to be the guy. He is going to be the starter. He is going to be the main man. You don't tend to have a lot of high 2nd round picks who don't play at all. Which when you've got a player that comes in maybe as an offensive line or a wide receiver or a running back or a linebacker or a cornerback high, they can split snaps and they can play parts still. However, at the centre position, you don't tend to chop and change your centre. Logan Jones also doesn't really play guard, so you can't exactly boot him out to guard. Plus also, Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, top guard, so you're not going to take them out for Logan Jones. So now after the pick of Logan Jones in the draft, Ben Johnson confirmed that Logan Jones and Garrett Bradbury will be competing for the starting job. That meaning, of course, that Garrett Bradbury, who is a veteran who will want to play after playing last season in New England, is not guaranteed to start. Now, we know that, Logan Jones is a guy that is very highly rated. Ben Johnson said this of Logan Jones. He said, the guys at Iowa were raving about him. And then then just the next level in terms of football IQ as well. So I think none of us have any qualms that he'll be able to download the information, and once again, it's just another spot we'll have a high level of competition at. So we now know that this is really created an interesting situation within the Bears offensive line, that realistically that Logan Jones is in there competing to start. Now, if you obviously bring Logan Jones in to start, what happens to Garrett Bradbury? I don't think Garrett Bradbury is going to be content with sitting on the bench and not playing. So all this has increased the speculation around a trade for Garrett Bradbury. Now, we obviously sent a 5th round pick to New England for Garrett Bradbury. Now, guaranteeing more money, giving Bradbury more guaranteed money, would seem to indicate that a trade is now less likely, because teams, are not going to want to pay him more. Whereas, if he'd been paid less, they may be more inclined to trade for him. However, if he does fall to second on the draft chart, on the depth chart, is he likely to want to stick around? Is he likely to want to stay and be a backup? That is the big question. And I think this is obviously, all kind of cast aspersions. Or is this the Bears showing faith in him? That, look, Garrett, we've got faith in you. You're going to be our starting guy. You will play. I don't know. It's a very interesting situation. So some really interesting roster moves happening in Chicago around Garrett Bradbury and, of course, the release of Zar Frazier. Guys, let me know your thoughts on those stories. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember to bear down.